Yeah, started my very first proper business when I was actually in year 12 of high school. Makes it seem quite real, I suppose, especially because Shark Tank's filmed in such a way that, adds a lot of personality to it. It's not just like a boring board meeting between like old sophisticated investors. There's obviously a lot of emotional side of Shark Tank. So I think even more than a framework, it almost gave me the ability to dream big, I suppose. And I remember back to being at a lunch with one of my aunties when I was 10 or 11 years old, and she kind of looked at me and said, "You're definitely never going to be somebody that's, broke on the street with no money," kind of thing. I think the success and the money chasing has always been something that was ingrained into me pretty young.
Welcome to The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle. Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, we just wanted to take a really quick moment to thank one of our sponsors, Tala Offshore. For any businesses wanting to maximize their return on new hires, Tala offers seamless access to top-tier Filipino talent who are real employees hand-selected by the Tala team, slashing your staffing costs by up to 60% with onboarding in under a week. Visit talaoffshore.com to scale smarter, and thanks again to Tala for supporting The Business Game. Hi everybody, welcome back to the show. My name's Jazmyn. I'm joined today by my co-host Kevin.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
And we are very lucky to be joined by Liam today. Thank you so much for coming on. I hear this is maybe your first official podcast.
100%. Yeah, so excited to be here. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So Liam, we'll just kick off by getting you to tell our audience who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, perfect. Hey everyone, so my name's Liam Trolio and I'm the director of CupKings and Contento brands. So full-time e-commerce director. CupKings is probably one of our flagship brands, and we sell stainless steel red party cups. And Contento brands is kind of a home to a bunch of other smaller direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands in Australia. So currently in a bit of a rebuilding phase for Contento, so don't have any crazy household names underneath it. But has previously been the home to some decently sized brands. We used to sell scented water bottles in Australia in a brand called Drink Scent. Prior to that, another brand that everyone definitely has heard of and knows and loves is Hooks and Ladders. That's the other one that I get a lot of questions about. So
Awesome. Alrighty. So Liam, we're going to start right back in the beginning. I want to know about how your childhood might have shaped the entrepreneur that you are today. Was there any signs from the beginning?
definitely. I think I've always been one. I think even I remember back to being at a lunch with one of my aunties when I was 10 or 11 years old, and she kind of looked at me and said, "You're definitely never going to be somebody that's broke on the street with no money," kind of thing. I think the success and the money chasing has always been something that was ingrained into me pretty young. I've got my grandparents migrated over from Italy, so I think I've got a bit of that overseas immigrant kind of work ethic and hustle. But yeah, started my very first proper business when I was actually in year 12 of high school. And we started renting out bubble soccer suits. I don't know if you've seen bubble soccer before, but it's
No.
just that version of soccer where you're in the big Zorb ball thing, the big inflatable
Cool.
thing, and you can
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
kind of smash and bash into people as you play. But yeah, so saw that over in Europe, and there was no one doing it in Perth. So we started the very first bubble soccer business in WA. So yeah, I think my childhood is definitely like in terms of entrepreneurship. I have seen my dad run his own bottle stores. He was always in the liquor industry.
Hmm.
Kind of definitely instilled in me that work ethic and yeah, the pains and pros of running your own business and doing the entrepreneurial journey as opposed to a more traditional, 9 to 5.
Yeah,
Hmm.
awesome.
So what are some, I guess, how do you define your entrepreneurship? Like, what do you feel like your entrepreneurship from the start till now?
I think after working for a big company for a while, I was pretty keen to get back into doing my own thing and working for myself pretty quickly. And I think that definitely comes from a place of just I don't know, entrepreneurship to me is kind of just like chasing your own like dreams and goals, and having like a direct outcome from your labor and your hard work come directly to you, and being able to put so much like time and effort into things and seeing the reward come straight there. I think I love e-commerce because it's a business model that has such a quick feedback loop too, and unlike a few other kind of bigger tech players or like everything in the AI industry at the moment, it's quite quick to see if a product's got legs in e-com, and I think that's why I love e-commerce in general so much. And I think that relates back to the creativity and the fun, and I don't know, also pain, but a lot of fun and enjoyment that I get out of kind of starting new things. And yeah, you can really quickly see fruits of the labor that you do put in with entrepreneurial adventures and stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say, like, we'll get into all the hard stuff shortly, but what are some of like the absolute highlights that you've experienced so far?
yeah, for sure. I think honestly, even just that very first sale when I first started e-commerce is still a massive highlight to me. It's just something that gave me evidence or gave me proof that kind of doing this had its legs very, very early on. Through to obviously like I definitely had a lot of joy or yeah, success around that $1 million a month mark. A lot of my e-commerce revenue is obviously around that quarter 4 time with Christmas and all the giving and gifting that happens around then. But I think the absolute highlight in terms of just like a professional and personal goal was definitely being on Shark Tank last year.
Mm.
That's something that I watched religiously almost growing up. So to be able to have been to step out into the tank, as I say, last year was still kind of crazy. I think I forget a lot that it did happen. But if you had asked me 5 years ago, what would have been like a completely unrealistic dream,
Mm.
especially because Shark Tank Australia wasn't even being aired or filmed at the time,
Mm.
I think yeah, Shark Tank was always something that was definitely an unrealistic goal for me. So yeah, to have that come through last year was pretty crazy.
Yeah, massive congratulations on that. I remember seeing your episode when it was first sort of floating around online, and it's just so great to see that like you actually have been able to follow through on that journey. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
that sounds amazing. It seems like you've obviously had some experiences from the bubble soccer business, and you were in accounting, and then you moved away to e-commerce. What was it like moving into e-commerce, and what was the kind of like the pivotal moment for you to go, you know what, I can do it regardless of whatever everyone thinks. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I think I was attracted to e-commerce originally because yeah, you get almost a holistic view of business. You've got like a lot of my skills probably are on the product finding and product research and developing new product ideas and that side of things. But at the same time, I run my business very lean, so I do a lot of the hands-on stuff in a lot of different areas. So whether that be marketing, through to like product fulfillment, I understand a lot about that these days, through to customer service, and yeah, you just get such a wide range of skills, and it keeps things quite interesting. I think that's another thing that kind of yeah, definitely helps me get into e-commerce. In terms of actually taking the leap and doing it, I
Mm.
suppose I've always thought I would have started a business, but it took me a while to actually kind of yeah take that leap
Yeah.
and quit the full-time job to do it. I honestly think that was mainly based on like a fear of regret
Mm.
in the future. I was pretty young when I did decide to quit, which is obviously
Mm.
a little bit of an advantage. I didn't have a mortgage or kids or anything like that
Yeah.
to look after, but I just didn't want to wake up in 10 to 15 years knowing that I have this kind of
Mm.
skill set and even drive and motivation and just be stuck in what I used to be doing. I think it would have been very easy for me to just continue on the path where I was at. But yeah, obviously very, very glad and very grateful that I did end up making that decision now.
Yeah. I mean, you say that it would have been easy for you to continue on that path, but I get the sense that if you're someone who has that kind of brain like yours, where you need to be doing all of the things all at once, I don't know that you could have managed to sit still and get comfy.
Yeah, true, true. I think just it's sometimes so easy to get encompassed by what you were doing. So I think I was in a very comfortable position in the sense that, once you've established yourself in a career or a job for a few years, everything becomes comfortable in terms of like, what your daily routine's like, that money's coming in every month. And that's probably the biggest thing that I learned early is definitely with e-commerce in particular, money doesn't necessarily come in every month.
Yeah.
So it definitely didn't have the security of a full-time job. So yeah, I definitely don't think I would have sat there forever, to be fair, but I think it was a good decision to pull the plug when I did and finally make that change.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so Jane Liu, who is also one of the hosts on Shark Tank, and the founder of Showpo, she recently dug into online being a lazy CEO, which is essentially just blending lifestyle and leadership success. What's your relationship with work-life balance these days?
Yeah, definitely was also probably the other motivating factor between leaving my old full-time job. I definitely don't think I do like a considerable amount less work. I think the biggest benefit I do have now is that I do just have the flexibility to do work when it kind of suits me. I've always definitely been a bit more of a night owl than a day person, so I tend to work late, and I have some business partners over in the States and people over there, so that kind of works out well with the Perth time zone as well. But definitely still am working a decent amount. So I wouldn't say like I'm doing 2 or 3 hour days. Like I think some people might have the fortune to do. But the flexibility has been, yeah, one of the biggest pros of making that career change a few years ago. So yeah, typically don't work too much during the day and get to spend a lot of time with my partner's actually a relief teacher, so on her days off, we get to get to hang out and spend time during the day, which is awesome. And yeah, just that flexibility has brought so much benefits in terms of work-life balance and just overall happiness, to be honest.
How do you stay disciplined in, okay, I gotta work at this time, I gotta get up in the morning, you don't have your steady income come in. So how do you stay motivated and disciplined in your business?
Yeah, I think there's two sides of that. One, I just do genuinely enjoy a lot of the parts of it.
Yeah.
Like I think, as mentioned before, the creativity and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like I really do enjoy just the kind of the grind at the beginning of taking a new idea from like scratch pretty much, or something that I've just found all the way through to, just seeing it be a finished product and the product actually getting in people's hands. So one side is definitely the enjoyment factor.
Yeah.
And then the other side, I suppose, is just the financial instability or uncertainty of it. That I know if I don't do the work, nobody else is going to do it. So the money's not
That's a
coming
pretty
in
good
Yeah.
to some extent.
motivator. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely a bit of a
Yeah.
motivator as well.
Yeah.
But I think, to be honest, the overall thing is that I do just genuinely enjoy it. I think I get frustrated at times where I don't have the ability to get a lot of work done just because like life obviously gets in the way sometimes. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think the enjoyment's the bigger motivator, to be honest.
So let's get really practical with some advice. Obviously, you're still quite young and, you've been doing this since you were a teenager, but you're still in the early days of what I imagine is going to be a lifelong career. I'm wondering though, could you walk us through some really practical insights as to like maybe your most successful product? What was it about it that made it stand out?
Yeah, I think all of my most successful products, to be honest, have had a few similar characteristics. One of them definitely being that they're quite like unique and yeah, easy to advertise products. I think that's probably one lesson I did actually even learn from Shark Tank to some extent, which we can probably go into later. But like the products that have done really well for me, have always had some sort of like trend or virality base to them as well. So I don't tend to sell super generic products, and I think that is maybe subconsciously just because they are so much harder to advertise. So I think that's one massive part and characteristic that made them all successful. The other thing, honestly, is I really try and stick to products that either myself or my fiance will sell. Either myself or my fiance would buy, and that's because I think when you're the perfect consumer for a product, I think it's so much easier to understand what the market is, how to market, how to brand, and exactly kind of what problem or issue that you're solving for the customer. So those are my two kind of main things that I always am looking for when I'm looking for new products. And then probably something that I like have learned along the way is just like really prioritizing focus, and focusing on quality and customer satisfaction as well. I think it's something that a lot of people that move into the e-commerce world don't start off with focusing, because people are so desperate to make that first bit of money. But yeah, there's so many problems that can come afterwards, even if the store is successful and everything like that. So yeah, it's always just to focus on quality, trying to find something viral and eye-catching, and yeah, something that I know or understand the market of pretty well.
Yeah, it does sound like there's a lot of puzzle in this. So I do want to kind of ask, what are some of the challenges moment across your business now? And you kind of touched on a little bit, but what were the specific challenges and how did you actually overcome it?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I kind of had to overcome quite early is the seasonal aspect of e-commerce for sure. I think no matter, except for some like absolutely crazy products, I think a lot of e-commerce businesses are obviously built to deliver pretty good results in the last quarter of the year. Um, I unfortunately quit my full-time job in March,
Oh,
so that was a good six to 7 months before that big time for e-commerce. So I think early days I just had to really get used to that kind of flow, and not only from just like a personal finance perspective, there's a lot of things that go into that from a cash flow perspective as well. Obviously, if you're planning to sell pretty heavy in the last quarter of the year, that's when you need to have a large amount of stock ready to go as well. So probably the biggest problem that I still do to have to this day is just cash flow and just preparing inventory at a proper level as well, because then you can go overs as well. And I've heard of a lot of founders that are overconfident or overinvest in their product, and then when it doesn't move, that creates the other side of the problem where you've got yeah, too much product sitting on shelves that isn't going out to customers. So cash flow is probably honestly the biggest problem we face as our business.
what strategies are you implementing at the moment to try and sort of navigate that, like with the predictability of stock and cash flow?
Yeah, I think it's great that data and AI and everything's getting stronger and stronger as time goes on. So definitely trying to utilize
Is there a specific AI program that you use for any of that?
um, nothing specific. And I mean, I'm probably just gonna, say everything that everyone already knows in terms of using ChatGPT,
Yeah,
but
sure.
ChatGPT is still probably my go-to in terms of using any AI tools. Shopify itself, which is what pretty much every big e-commerce brand is based on these days, Shopify is just kind of really up to their own game in terms of their AI as well. So they've got something called Sidekick inside of Shopify. So I've been using that more and more as well, because it kind of does a similar thing to ChatGPT in the sense that it's like a chat-based bot, but it already has access to all the data that you could possibly need. Obviously, like it's missing that. It kind of gives the connection that ChatGPT doesn't have. And then the other strategy we use in terms of cash flow is honestly just really focusing and being financially and mentally prepared that quarter four is our peak. And that's one thing I had to personally learn almost from more of an emotional perspective as well. Like I was getting quite frustrated with the results earlier in the year, mainly because I didn't know that it was going to be that seasonal and I could rely so heavily on that quarter four seasonality. So yeah, that's kind of how we tackle the cash flow issue. But in terms of practical solutions to it, we really do use AI as much as we possibly can to try and yeah, factor in as much of that predictability in terms of how much stock we're going to sell as possible. Obviously, it's never perfect, but it's a lot better than what we used to do, and which is more of just a trial and error and buy as much as we can and hope that we sell through it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How did you kind of find your guidance? Do you have a business mentor relationship with somebody? How do you, you obviously went on to Shark Tank and things like that, but what was the process? Did you have a mentor that carried you to support you in this approach?
Yeah, I think I'm lucky. The one benefit that I did really get from working in a Big Four accounting firm previously is that I did have access to quite a wide range of resources and network in that regard. One of my good friends that I made at the Big Four accounting firm actually started his own business at a very similar time. So I definitely think we bounced a lot of ideas off each other early days. He started it in a completely different industry, but I think a lot of the struggles that business owners face, although in completely different contexts, are quite similar in a lot of ways. Obviously tends to come down to cash flow a lot and hiring and those kind of things. And that those are pain points that I think a lot of business owners and founders face. The other one, I just honestly just turned to my dad quite a lot. I'm quite lucky that my dad, growing up, ran all of his businesses. He got the keys to his very first liquor store when he was 18. So he was running that business through to when he was 62. So yeah, he's been through a lot of ebbs and flows in the business world as well. So
Did that keep
yeah,
him
really.
did that keep him out of trouble or put him in more trouble being in a
I'm
liquor
not sure.
store?
I obviously wasn't around when he was younger. I can't
Yeah.
imagine it kept him out of trouble back then. But I think, yeah, the liquor industry is a whole different beast as well, to be honest. I think as the big players came in, it became a hard business to run. So it definitely got a bit harder as he got older. But I can imagine it definitely was a benefit when he was growing up and younger. I think having access to your own liquor store at 18 would have been pretty wild. So
Yeah. So for product market fit, I know you've gone over how you try to be your own consumer, your own target consumer. But what advice could you give to other entrepreneurs about that process before going to market, about sort of pressure testing their product market fit?
yeah. Again, I think e-commerce, I'm so fortunate that e-commerce is an industry where you do get such quick feedback. Because obviously, unlike some of the bigger players, you really do get to advertise quite quickly and see if customers are getting traction to your product. And that doesn't necessarily mean sales. I mean more so that there's not a negative response in the sense that the price is too high, it's not the right time for this, because there's so many factors that obviously go into product market fit. Aside from looking at being my own consumer myself, I also kind of speak to a lot of people quite consistently about the products we're really excited about and we're launching as well. So even prior to actually getting proper consumer feedback, I try to talk to as many different people as I can as well. So whether that be my parents, because that's the other thing, is you can almost never predict what age group or what customer base is actually going to resonate well with your product as well. So I do try to talk to a wide range of people, but I think I am very lucky in e-commerce that you do get such a quick feedback response from actual consumers. So it's definitely a lot easier to find out whether or not the product has legs rather than, an online SaaS product or a
Yeah.
digital tool that might take years in the making. So
Do you find that those real world conversations translate to how people pick it up online? Is it
I
sort of a
think
one for one?
yeah, they definitely can, and they definitely cannot in the same
Okay.
token. I think
Yeah.
you need to like be very careful about who you're listening to feedback from, and it's like not just listening to some particular feedback more stronger than others as well. So I try and do kind of speak to like a very wide range of friends and family. So yeah, there's some people that I think are very passionate about things, but then they tend to end up not being the consumers anyway. So yeah, I try and cast a pretty broad net and then take the overall response rather than listening to just direct feedback from individuals, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It seems like you still have your accountant brain on, very critical in your decision and who to listen to and knowing who to talk to. So I think that will always be there for you. We want to go into your journey with Shark Tank. What was the kind of the moment you decided to go on to that kind of big venture?
It's actually a bit of a funny story, to be honest, because we applied. I'm a pretty big fan and follower of Davey Fogarty, so he was one of the judges, obviously the founder of the Oodie. I think a lot of people in the business world obviously know him in Australia. So I've been following him for quite some time. And he put up, I think it was like honestly could have even been a TikTok the year before, so 2023, that he had been announced as a Shark Tank judge, or shark rather, and they were opening the application process for small businesses in Australia. And I found that out on the second last day of the application process, the first year. So I instantly messaged my business partner and was like, we may as well just throw our kind of hat in the ring and just see what happens. And we almost did get through that first year. I think if it hadn't been the last day of the application process and they hadn't already kind of sorted most of the candidates out for that year, they were trying to rush us through, but I just don't think the timing was going to work out because there's obviously so much that goes into the pitch and the filming, not even just from a contestant side of things, but the team at Shark Tank do such a good job with like set design and all of those kind of things that probably you don't think about generally. So we didn't get through that first year, and then last year again, we kind of just were like, may as well try. Similar to the reason I quit my job, it was again that fear of regret. I think I would have kicked myself if the episodes were just, coming out and I was sitting there watching at home, at least within having not put our name in the ring for it. So yeah, it's a massive process. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for me is it's only a 10-minute kind of showing on the show, if that, or 7 minutes. But it's a long time that you're in the tank, and there's obviously a lot of months in preparation and for it. So um, yeah, in terms of there's a lot of learnings that I took from it for sure. I think the biggest personal thing I've taken from it is it's like really calmed my public speaking and just social anxiety skills in terms of being a professional presenter and stuff like that. Because if we could get up for 50 minutes and speak to like people that I've been watching since I was 12 years old and like Robert Herjavec on the show, for example, if I can speak to him for an hour about something, then I can probably speak to most people. So I think that's honestly probably the biggest thing that I have taken away from a personal development perspective for sure.
Yeah, and that's valuable going forward into everything. One of those soft skills that actually without it you're probably not getting very far.
We've seen a lot of episodes of Shark Tank. There's a lot of crash and burns. So for yourself, coming in as a startup, not really in the maturity stage of your business, where you worry about, oh, if I go onto this thing, it's just going to crash. And do you have
Yeah,
that, external validation seeking?
yeah, I think so. Like there definitely is a bit of a concern there, but I think we were just so confident in the preparation that we'd done that we were like, there's every business I think has flaws. I think anybody that tells you that goes up on there and says like, there's no question they can ask us that's going to make us, like get worried about something. Like there's no business that's 100% perfect in my eyes. Like whether it be financial or like the founders have got other personal commitments. Like there's always going to be something I think if you stand in front of like such highly successful business people and they grill you for 50 minutes. We were ready for, some question to kind of catch us off guard, but I think we were just confident that the preparation we had done together meant that that we'd be able to at least kind of like handle the questions back and bat off any massive kind of concerns the Sharks had. But yeah, definitely a concern when you don't get to like you film 3 months in advance and then don't get to see the final edit till it's live on TV. I think that's probably where
Wow.
more of the anxiety kicked in. Because you're just kind of sitting at home wondering, is how is this actually going to look
Yeah.
on TV? So yeah, there was a lot of anxiety at that point. I can tell. I'll be honest about that.
Hey guys, just a quick break to thank our affiliate partner HubSpot. We are thrilled to announce our partnership with HubSpot, the ultimate all-in-one CRM platform. HubSpot helps you streamline marketing, sales, and customer service with powerful tools to grow your business faster. From lead generation to automation, it's got you covered. By using the link in our description, you not only get to start your HubSpot journey for free, but you'll also be supporting our work here on the show. Now back to today's episode. It's pretty incredible how Shark Tank has really changed the landscape, I think, for younger entrepreneurs moving into it, probably a lot more quickly than they would have before the show was on TV, even like the international editions as well. You mentioned that you watched it growing up as well. Did you use it almost as a framework to kind of build your first business? Was it always in the back of your mind?
I think if nothing else, Shark Tank gives people a lot of like confidence that like small business really is possible, and like I think that's probably more so than a framework. It just like makes it seem quite real, I suppose, because especially because Shark Tank's filmed in such a way that adds a lot of personality to it. It's not just like a boring board meeting between like old sophisticated investors. There's obviously a lot of emotional side of Shark Tank. So I think even more than a framework, it almost gave me the ability to dream big, I suppose. To say like even just by myself, there are some pretty crazy things that are possible once you put your mind to it. So at the same time, though, 100%, like there's so many learnings that you can get even just watching Shark Tank because they are very real negotiations, especially in that like kind of merger and acquisition or investment space, you learn a lot about like what questions like actual investors would be looking for, like what things you need to have in the business set up well for people to be interested in doing make investment. So there's a heap of real learnings from it as well. And yeah, I definitely one of the biggest takeaways as well is just that the show is 100% real. Like the Sharks hadn't met or heard from any of us before. They didn't know about our business at all. So that whole interaction is like 100% authentic. So it does kind of show a lot about like yeah, that world of investment and M&A and stuff in real time as well. So
Well,
yeah.
that's nice to know from an insider perspective. It's all legit.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of the question I get is that, is it scripted? Did you know the question's coming before? And 100, I wish that was the case, to be honest. We would have
Yeah.
known what we were in for, but yeah, it definitely wasn't the case.
What's your favorite pitch aside from your own? Do you have one that comes to mind?
Hmm. That's a hard question. I feel like there's been so many seasons of Shark Tank America now that
Yeah.
it's like I can't even remember individual pitches. I think I do remember some of the really like bad ones, like
Yeah.
the favorite for a bad reason. I do love watching Mark Cuban rip into a few of the
The
American ones.
pseudoscience ones.
Yeah, there's definitely one where they got those like old school power bands
Oh yeah.
on in America, like the bands where they're meant to, I don't know, help negative ion theory or something. I don't know, something ridiculous. And Mark Cuban gets into them. But I think like in terms of like an actual impressive standpoint, I was really inspired by there's a girl called Maddie on the season of Shark Tank Australia before us who started 35 Millimeter Co, which is one of the kind of big ecom brands coming out of Australia. I found her super, super impressive. Not even from just the business perspective, but she handled herself so well in the tank as well. And then from overseas, I think it's hard to look past the Scrub Daddy as well and how big
Oh,
of a
yeah.
brand that is. So those would probably be my two go-tos in terms of yeah, an impressive one aside from the power bands for sure.
And aside from CupKings. Yeah.
And yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's a little bit of PTSD in there for me, so I don't know if I'd put
Sure.
that up there as the top. So
We do have many people coming through the Business Game podcast, and that talks about the success having the right people around. Can you describe a conversation you had recently, either professional or personally, that changed your perspective?
yeah, for sure. I think again, it's just drawing on that kind of network that I had from Big Four. Although like the times at Big Four were quite hard, I've made some really good contacts that are still in the business world there. So I speak to that friend of mine who's a pretty successful businessman in his own right now. But aside from starting his own accounting firm, they've actually started a kind of like a not-for-profit based co-working space that I go to as well. And there's probably no individual conversation that I can point to with him that like I drew anything too specific from, but just the overall notion of creating profit for good is something that I've been quite inspired by recently. So a lot of their business ventures are set up, obviously, so the business arm is quite profitable, but all with the mind that the profit from that business goes to then creating a not-for-profit arm that does such good things for the community. Yeah, so like for example, those guys they do like a every Tuesday, I think Tuesday every fortnight it is now. They organize like cooking for the homeless, where they get a bunch of our kind of colleagues and network together, go and prepare a meal for themselves as well as one meal for the homeless, and just those community-based events that are doing such good for the community, whilst it's all still linked to a business network and driven from a purely profitable business. That's definitely left me pretty inspired recently. So it's something that I'm looking into a little bit
So
more as well.
you've got a spill then, because I know you would have some ideas floating around about what causes are most important to you. Do you have something that's top of mind at the moment?
Yeah, I've always been passionate about two things, like, well, a lot more than two things, hopefully, but two massive causes that have really been close to heart. I've always been a massive advocate against homelessness, and I just think it's crazy that in such an amazing, beautiful first world country, we have still such a big problem with homelessness. So yeah, that's been one of the massive causes that I've been kind of thinking about and trying to figure out how I can help with. Yeah, it's also about like trying to use that money and resource as efficient as possible as well. So trying to think that one through, and then we actually have gotten very passionate about um anti-greyhound racing, I guess, in Perth in particular as well. So we adopted two greyhounds about 18 months and 6 months ago. So me and my fiance are very passionate against about kind of ending that industry as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are the two causes that we're looking at quite passionately.
Okay, you should probably include the greyhounds in the next podcast interview you do.
Definitely, definitely. But it's just if you want to hear me at all, instead of just barking
Yeah.
and them just ripping up toys behind me, that's the main problem.
We'll do another episode where it's specifically catered toward that.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. I'm not sure how the viewer base will go, but yeah, for sure.
So, I suppose staying on that topic, what are some ways of approaching incorporating a not-for-profit element to a business? Are you sort of thinking about doing it in that really structured approach of setting up a not-for-profit, or do you think that you'll just include some social program messaging into your existing brands, or
Yeah, I think a bit of both. I think ideally long term it would be setting up a not-for-profit and making sure that the best use of the money is going towards that not-for-profit. I think that's probably the biggest problem at the moment is that even if we did that, we probably just don't have the time or even expertise to some extent to make the best use of that money or the funds that we could donate through that sense. So we've already started with a few of our brands donating like significant amounts of our profits to charities. So one of our brands under Contento Brands, we donate like 10% of the profits to Gawa, which is the Greyhound, one of the Greyhound kind of charities in WA. And then it's through to things like CupKings, for example, where we're in talks at the moment to have like charity-based short-term kind of cups or beer pong balls and stuff. So it might be like the Beyond Blue, special set of blue beer pong balls for CupKings, where 100% of the profits of those sales go towards charities as well. I think that's probably the short-term vision, more things like that, and then eventually, once we've got the expertise and probably time or even resource to create our own not-for-profit, I think that would be something we'd be looking into pretty heavily.
and not I know your heart is in the right place with that, but I'm going to draw it back to a not so wholesome place. I'm just wondering, do you know anything about whether incorporating a charity element to a product, does that do anything to do a positive uptick in how consumers actually purchase it?
It probably would. We weirdly enough had it on that website that I was talking about before, and I think people just got a little bit confused. I think because the product itself isn't directly linked to like that cause. I think that's probably the biggest issue that I've had with that. So we actually still donate the profits, but we don't have it listed on the website at all anymore. But I think in general, obviously, people are way more willing to spend money when there's a positive kind of social impact behind the product as well. So that definitely is always a positive. But I think the overall net of that is still amazing in the sense that if people are spending more with the business because of the social impact behind it, all that's really doing is getting more money to
Sure.
the social impact as well. So yeah, funnily enough, we thought that would be the case when we put it on our website, but it actually almost had the opposite effect as well. So I think it also depends on how well your product market fit and like your audience for that particular product resonates or cares with a particular cause as well. Obviously, some people feel very passionately about certain things, so yeah, maybe that wasn't the right fit for that time as well. So
Yeah, some strategy behind it.
So, what do you do for fun, Liam, outside of your workplace and, or e-commerce space? Like, what else do you do for fun that helps you kind of navigate through the stress and the balance?
yeah, I think the greyhounds take a lot of my time, to be honest. I think we're walking them at least an hour a day between the two of them. So yeah, that definitely takes up a lot of time. But yeah, it's been great having dogs again. So they're definitely a good break, and it honestly gets me outside quite a bit as well, which is also really nice. That's another struggle, I suppose, working from home or working for yourself with no fixed place. Getting any exercise outside of the home is great. I'm a pretty passionate AFL supporter as well, so footy takes up a lot of time. I'm in a fantasy league with all my schoolmates, so that also takes up way too much of my time as well. But yeah, aside from that, pretty big into sport and fitness as well. I've kind of been on a bit of a weight loss journey over the past few years. So I've been working with a PT and have kind of slowly fallen in love with running a bit as well.
Oh
So
no, you're going to be one of those CEOs with a whole fitness routine,
Yeah.
5
I
a.m.
think so. I
Yeah,
think so. There's no ice baths or cold plunges yet, but
it's
that might
coming.
that
It's
might
coming,
work
yeah.
into it at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sports and fitness has always been a massive yeah, a bit of fun, and also like I find it really balances the stress of running your own
Yeah.
business as well. I definitely think the mental health impacts of sport and fitness and getting outside almost even better than the fun side of things as well. So yeah, those are kind of the main things I do for fun, but I do really genuinely think that I find a lot of the business stuff fun to some extent as well. Obviously, it's definitely not easy and it definitely gets stressful and hard, but there is definitely the fun side of the creativity part of it too. So I think it really gets me to yeah live into the
Have your
creativity
cake and
side.
eat it too.
Sorry?
Gorgeous. Have your cake and eat
Yeah,
it too. Yeah.
that's it. That's it. Yeah, I don't think it's fun 100% of the time, but yeah, definitely overall.
So I'm sure you've connected with a lot of founders through this journey. I guess throughout the e-commerce and direct-to-consumer space, what is the current culture just amongst sort of like inner network culture? Do you find that it's a really genuinely supportive, inclusive environment, or do you find that, you're kind of battling against those old school stereotypes of corporate life?
Yeah, I think there's almost two subsets to the like e-commerce community. I think there's like I find the local Australian e-commerce community very supportive. And I've been lucky enough to be part of a few of the kind of big programs in Australia, like Daily Mentor, which is one of Davey Fogarty's kind of communities, and I've met some really good friends and kind of like networks through that way. But then I kind of find the general broader e-commerce space, especially kind of the typical like course selling, like digital nomad kind of people, I find them a little bit less welcoming in general. I think like that side of things, people trying to show off like the flashy cars and flashy lifestyle, those people tend to be a little less welcoming. But the Australian local e-commerce scene is honestly amazing. I found that super supportive. Like we're even working with a bunch of the other people that were on Shark Tank Australia and working on like a really cool giveaway and promotion to celebrate it being a year since we're on the show and stuff like that. So
Awesome.
yeah, I found that yeah, really supportive and a great network to draw on for sure.
Is there any sort of specific online groups or in-person events that you've participated in that you would recommend to other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to a few of the kind of big e-commerce events over the past few years. So I went to Retail Fest a few years ago, so that was really good up in the Gold Coast. That was a lot of fun. So that was probably the main one that I've been to, and I've been to Online Retailer in Sydney a few times as well. But yeah, I think anytime you can find people like-minded in a similar industry, just to be able to share pain points and success and also just have that like relatability too is yeah, really good. So that network that I've met through Daily Mentor and just through the people through on Shark Tank has been oh yeah, a good community to be a part of as well.
With your e-commerce products and things like that, is there any in terms of like least favorite social media platforms that or some social media platform you would kind of recommend to go focus on a little bit more in the near future?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it changes so often. I think I've only been doing e-commerce full time for like 3 and a bit years, but I've been doing it in the background a bit for a bit longer than that. But it is interesting how the new platforms do kind of take over the market a little bit. So when I first started, it was 110% Facebook and Instagram, so obviously Meta. And then that shifted a little bit in that kind of 2 years to TikTok. But then, yeah, I still think our biggest focus is always Meta. I find the results to be most consistent there. And I found TikTok's a great place to get a bit of virality and traction, but it doesn't tend to be where a lot of the actual buyers kind of live. I think Meta is definitely a bit of an older and more established audience with a bit more, yeah, spend behind them. So we focus like 90% of our time and effort through Meta and a little bit through Google as well. But we don't really touch TikTok, which is probably a little bit different to what a lot of the online e-commerce gurus will tell you about, where to advertise and
Well,
what
no,
platforms to focus on.
no TikTok shop in Australia yet. It's an
I know, and that's
outrage.
that's probably
Ooh.
another thing that was meant to be. I feel like I've heard that that's coming for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that'll be a complete change because the impact that that's had on the US e-com scene has been
Yeah.
insane. So that probably will be a massive shift. But yeah, I think with the social media platforms, it's always like a bit of a game of attention and which has got the most eyes to some extent. So I'm sure there'll be another platform up tomorrow that,
Or if you
will
if
take a
you
bit of the market share.
put more stuff with your greyhound, they will be it'll be go
Yeah,
viral,
that's
no?
true.
Yeah.
I know we need to get some more some dog models through to sell on the cups, but yeah.
So, talking Meta ads, what's been your most successful campaign that your ROI has just been through the roof?
Yeah, I think it's always making stuff that's super authentic and engaging. I think a lot of people that get into advertising try and make ads that look too much like ads and not ads that just look like native content. So I think our most successful one, CupKings, is definitely just like user-generated content is blowing up a lot
Yeah.
still. So in terms of just getting creators that are just genuinely making videos about the product because they feel passionate about the product or they actually do use the product. Those are always the videos that have worked the best for us. So for CupKings, for example, we have a guy that we know over in Queensland that was really passionate about our products that makes videos for us. So those are always the ones that do better because there's people can tell, I think, these days when ads are fake and just paid for. So anything, the more authentic and the more engaging our videos have been, definitely the better results we've had.
Yeah. And have you dabbled at all in hiring social media influencers?
Never gone down the actual hiring route.
Um, could you speak to sort of what your ad spend monthly is on Meta to be getting good returns?
Yeah, it honestly is one of those learnings about Q4 that I was talking about before, sorry, quarter four of the year. In the early parts of the year, from an emotional and just not getting too invested in a time that isn't profitable for us, we really do cut back our spend quite a bit. But towards the end of the year, we're probably spending on some of our bigger brands, like, yeah, well into the 200,000s maybe a month on Meta ads. But yeah, that's a huge peak. And then December would probably tail that back a little bit. And then January, for some brands, we honestly just turn the ads off.
Oh,
We
wow.
found that our products can be that seasonal and obviously so giftable that people want them for Christmas. And then yeah, once everyone's spent all their money for Christmas and that gifting period, we really do, yeah, rein it in quite a bit.
Yeah, but obviously you're still finding success in that approach. So that's nice to give hope for other
Mm.
seasonal brands.
Yeah, I think honestly, one of the biggest things that people do come to me for advice sometimes on e-commerce, and they've tried very hard from that like February to August period. And I think it's just detaching yourself from that, not failure, but those hard times when you're really up against the grain in terms of being able to be successful in the first place anyway. So yeah, it's definitely one of the big learnings I took away early is don't get too invested at that time of year and don't get that emotionally attached and definitely have the ability to regroup and gear up towards the last quarter of the year because that's where like even the big brands, I think there's people that have got way bigger numbers than we have in our brands like Davey that talk about how skewed it is to Q4. And there is things you can do and obviously Australia is where we target most of our spend and Australia gets the double of it being summer and Christmas in the end of the year, where like the Northern Hemisphere obviously has their summertime
Oh, of
during the middle of the
course.
year. So there are things you can always do, but yeah, there's definitely a bit of learnings in terms of being resilient through that first half of the year and pushing into the second half.
Yeah, with the number of years that you've been in the business now in the commerce space, now that you have kind of some reliable data on your end, how do you handle your risk now going? How do you handle that risk? Spending $200,000 a month
Yeah,
business.
again, I don't want to sound like a broken record to some extent, but I think we're very lucky in e-commerce that everything's so trackable. so that like we wouldn't be spending 200 grand hoping that it works. We've obviously got such good data in the back end from Meta and Shopify, knowing that for that 200 grand spend, we might get $800,000 worth of revenue in that month or something like that. We wouldn't just be spending that kind of just, yeah, hoping that and praying that it works. I think that's why e-commerce is so good in a few ways because, yeah, unlike a generic marketing campaign where you're not able to track exactly where that spend's gone and what customers have come through from that market activity. But in terms of like risk appetite, it definitely, we have to still have a bit of a estimated guess, I guess, towards the end of the year as how much to spend. Like I definitely wouldn't be going and spending that $200,000 in January and February, that's for sure. So it's just given me the confidence after running it for 4 or 5 years that there really is that crazy seasonality in Q4. And as long as you've got, obviously that doesn't apply to every single business. Like there's some products that won't be giftable. Like you're not going to buy certain products for gifts for your partner or your family. But if anything in that realm of giftability, there is that seasonality, which just gives us the confidence and the risk appetite to really invest in that Q4 period.
We're getting toward the end of the interview. It's gone so fast. I could have asked you so many more questions. But I guess to wrap up, what is your favorite piece of advice that you could give to other people about what really drives moving the needle on your business?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, especially from when I was younger and how I think things used to work, or at least how in my brain they used to work, is that I think if you focus too much on the direct financials, you end up getting too caught up in the financials that you don't end up being successful in a lot of ways. So I've really kind of tried to strip back my process and just genuinely try and do what I found enjoyable. And that has helped grow the business so much more than trying to increase conversion rate by 2% or increase the profitability by 10%. I really do believe and have like, it's taken a while to get to it, but do believe that success, at least for me, is not really necessarily a measure of how much money is coming in, but to some extent a measure of happiness. And if you focus on that side of the business and making things like happy and positive for everyone, the profitability actually just does genuinely flow on from that. So that's definitely one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've finally, I think, started to believe after a while in business.
That's awesome. And what exciting things do you have coming up?
Yeah, so we're obviously in that July, August, September period now. So yeah, from a business perspective, we're getting into the real kind of crunch time in terms of testing new products. So have something pretty exciting in the works that we've invested quite a bit of time and money into. I was lucky enough to go over to Canton Fair in China earlier this year and found a really cool supplier that we're working on a really cool product with. And then yeah, so that'll hopefully be kind of coming up in the next few months. And then from a personal perspective, yeah, I've got a wedding to plan for next September.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's super exciting. And yeah, so that's another massive thing coming up.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Oh, that is exciting. Can you reveal, at least with the new product, who's the target demographic?
I think it's definitely more towards that kind of millennial, like between like 18 and 40, like that younger-ish audience. Probably people that are, it's geared to people that are interested in traveling as well.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of combining like a product that everyone uses to some extent, with like some extra trackability and not losing things while overseas. So it's in
Awesome.
that kind of world of things.
Well, I'm very excited to learn what it is once it's out.
Yeah.
It should be, yeah, hopefully we've run into a few issues with Google and stuff, but it should be out towards Q4 this year. So yeah, definitely stay tuned.
I'm just happy to see you going to get married. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
it's
congratulations.
we've put it very far in the future so we can not get too stressed out of yeah, planning because we got engaged almost a year ago. So yeah, it's definitely been a long process, but nah, super excited for that towards the end of next year.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Liam. It's been such a pleasure meeting you and having you on. Thanks for your time.
Nah, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been awesome.
To help support our continued mission to provide free, best-in-class advice from the world's most compelling business leaders, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. See you on Saturday. Thanks for tuning in to The Business Game. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected. A big thank you to our major sponsor, Track for powering today's episode. And join us again on the next episode of The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle.